Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome to a brand new edition of On to the Next One. The Matchmaking Crowns return following UFC 310, and this will be the final live edition of the program following a pay-per-view, because UFC 310 was the final pay-per-view of the year. But that doesn't mean that we're done for the year, doing some matchmaking and doing some other stuff. More on that in a moment. But I'm Mike Heck, and joining me as always to discuss the fallout from a pay-per-view from a matchmaking perspective is the co-host, the co-matchmaker, the Prince of Positivity, and my best friend, a guy who I work with every day. We were on the same Slack channels last night multiple times, but I feel like I have not spoken to this man in like a week. Alexander K. Lee. What's up, AK?
I missed you. My best friend, and you're so close. You're so close, and yet so far.
I know.
Yeah, you listen. It was busy for all of us this week. UFC 310. You're going to be busy next week. I will get to that later. But you got a busy week coming up. Of course, you got. We will have Mike Boots on the Ground Heck, of course, for UFC Tampa. Got a little Mike on the road, so that's gonna be fun in its own way. But again, I feel like I'm barely going to be able to talk to you. So we cherish these moments, Mike. We cherish these moments when you and I can talk directly with each other. Live on air, we can talk with the fans, we can talk with the listeners, we can talk with the haters. You know, it's great. It's a good time, especially after, I think, a pretty satisfying UFC 310 card. I give it I feel like the card overall, like a solid. I want to say 7 out of 10, but that sounds bad. But I mean like 7 out of 10 in a good way. Like I think like this scratched the itch. This scratched the itch for, man. I really hope there's one more like decent, UFC pay-per-view before the end of the year. This card, took some hits, but it came together, I think, in a nice way. And I again, overall, I think a pretty good card. I don't think people would regret their purchase. If this was one of the, I don't know what the people's pay-per-view budgets is. If you only buy half the pay-per-views every year, and this is one of them, I think it'd be all right.
You got it for $10 less, the quote-unquote holiday pricing, which was no one's going to buy this thing, so we have to try to get a few extra pay-per-view buys. And I don't think a lot of people bought it, just kind of based on the trends of this event, and that's okay. It's the holiday season. There's things happening, but yeah, I think this is a B-. It was Pantoja rocks. That guy absolutely rules. Rakhmonov and Garry was really, really interesting. I think we learned a lot about both guys. Wasn't the most thrilling fight, but we learned something about them, and we have something to talk about for both. Cyril got Alexander Volkov. Hand up, watching it live on the watch party. That might be the worst judging, personally, self-judging that I've ever done. Because I somehow, and maybe it's just because I had a bet on Gane. I was just like, yeah, I'll give it to Gane. I don't know. Like, it was just one of those fights that was just so weird. And then it just got worse. You know what I mean? Like, it was better than expectations because it got so heavyweighty and wrestle heavy. And it was actually hilarious to watch. And then when round 3 came around, it was just so terrible of a fight that I just didn't really know what to do. And I was just like, F it, give it to Gane. I actually, AK, rewatched that fight this morning. Please don't do that. There's nothing you need to go back and learn about it. So my advice to all of our wonderful viewers and listeners, don't go back and rewatch that fight, especially not the 3rd round. But hand up, I think AK, the robbery review, needs to come back for this one. I actually feel
maybe
I don't feel it about any other controversial decision. I kind of feel like Volkov got the big fat hose job here. And I don't say that very often, but I feel like he got hosed.
Yeah, I had it 30-27 Volkov. I was doing the live blog, so people can see exactly how my breakdown of it. I wasn't as outraged as people. I do find it hard to give Gane 3 rounds. I think all the judges were right. They gave round 3 to Volkov. Thank goodness. I think there was some worry that because Gane was fighting for some futile Kimura for like 3.5 minutes longer, the entire round almost, like that they would give him the round. But I mean, again, Volkov was on top. He wasn't doing much, but he's landing little insignificant strikes, I guess is the best way to put it. Volkov was landing a lot of those, and I think that's enough to take the round where neither guy did significant damage. So round 3, I think, was fine. All the judges gave it to Volkov, which is great. And then Camijo and Adelaide Bird gave it to the first 2 rounds for Gane. Excuse me. That's how we got our split. I don't think it's the worst. It is bad. We've had a lot of bad cards this year. I don't know any out and out robberies. This was probably. I'd have to watch again. I know you just told us all not to. I would have to watch again. I wish Volkov had done a little bit more, which isn't fair to him, because at the end of the day, when it comes to the 10-point must system, you only have to do enough to win, to be the guy who was ahead to get the 10-9. And I think asking Volkov why wasn't he more aggressive on the feet? Why didn't he do more damage on the ground? Why didn't he, it's a little unfair. It's a little unfair, right? Because by the letter of the law, it does look like he did more to win at least 2 of the 3 rounds, if not all 3. But gosh, and just in a fight where neither guy gets that close to finishing, I do struggle to call it a robbery. But I don't blame people. This was, if you were gonna do like the top 5 questionable decisions of the year in the UFC, probably up there. Probably up there.
Up there.
Way to close it, yeah, probably up there. And we've had a few. We've had a ton of questionable scorecards, that's for sure. Which thankfully, I think the right person ended up winning anyway. This was maybe the year of you can make a list of 20, I think, head scratching scorecards that, again, thankfully a lot of the time didn't affect the end outcome. But it wasn't a great year. It wasn't a great year for judging in some of these fights. Overall, as I always say, I don't think it's as bad as people think, but it sucks that there were so many examples that people could bring up to criticize where scoring is right now.
Dude, there were 3 on this card last night. 3 that got people all pissed off. I think 1 was real bad. I don't think the other ones are bad. I thought Randy Brown beat Bryan Battle. I had a bet on him too, so maybe there's some bias going on there. I still thought Randy won, and I thought Movsar Evloev beat Aljamain Sterling. And there were a lot of people very upset about that take, and I rewatched that fight as well, and I feel even better about Movsar winning that fight. And I actually felt in the rewatch that I think you can make a better case for Movsar winning 30-27 than you can for Aljamain winning 29-28.
Sure.
It was close though. This wasn't Evloev didn't blow the doors off Sterling. It was just a fun ass fight. And if you want to go back and rewatch something and have some fun, that is one to go back and rewatch and enjoy, because it's actually just as good the second time around. But I felt pretty confident Evloev won watching it live, and I felt even better about it watching it again.
Yeah, listen, this is what's going to happen when you have competent, high-level matchmaking. Gane Volkov was a really good rematch to book, and you ended up getting, again, probably not the fight people expected, but you ended up getting, again, 2 guys showing off some of their skills. Gane actually really legitimately showed advances in his wrestling and submission game. Not enough that I thought he was better than Volkov, but that was surprising to see. As you mentioned, Evloev and Sterling was just fantastic to watch. I get it, not a wall-to-wall thriller, but as far as watching a battle of wills and 2 guys with just truly magnificent wrestling and grappling, that was fascinating to watch. And again, a pretty close fight. I don't think people should have been upset with the decision. And Bryan Battle and Randy Brown, before the egregious weight miss by Battle, was one of the sleeper fights on this card. So all of these fights were expected to be competitive. I understand if people don't agree with the judging in the end, but I think all did turn out to be competitive. And yes, maybe the right guy didn't definitively get their hand raised in the end, which is unfortunate. But you could have ahead of time said, well, I bet Battle Brown could be a close decision. I bet Evloev Sterling could be a close decision. Gane Volkov, I'm not sure if people are leaning on that way, but I wasn't surprised that it was close. So people can cry robbery all they want. Again, I'm always reluctant to do it. I think sometimes close fights are just close fights, but Volkov has probably the best case for a grievance.
Completely agree. And a lot of people were giving me crap about the Evloev take, and I was like, look, man, you got to punch. You have to do some damage. And you can control a guy for 3.5 minutes. That's totally fine. But if the other guy has a minute of control time and he actually lands punches, he wins the round. That is just the criteria. That is the rules. You can have a guy on his back all you want, but if you do nothing, it's essentially like standing up and not punching. It's the same thing. It's just a positional change. There's no domination. There's nothing close to finishing the fight. None of it. And the damage was done by Movsar Evloev. So that's why I don't have an issue with 30-27. That's why I felt even better on the rewatch. But let's just get right into this, AK. I got to tell you, of all the post-pay-per-view on to the next ones, this might have been the toughest one for me. And we'll get into it in a second. I also had a little bit of fun, as we'll also get into. Let's talk about Alexandre Pantoja. I am here to tell you, AK, I know we're not doing a ranking shakeup or anything like that. I have already bumped up Alexandre Pantoja 3 spots in my pound-for-pound rankings. 1, because I think I've just had him way lower than I should have. And 2, this guy is just great. He's not very good. He's great. He is unbelievable. In my opinion, he is cemented his place as the second best flyweight of all time in the UFC, behind Demetrius Johnson, the man he called out. And I would love to live in a world where we are talking about a build to Alexandre Pantoja versus Demetrius Johnson. We are not ever going to get that fight. Demetrius Johnson will not go back to the UFC. He retired making millions and millions and millions, competing for one against lesser competition for the most part. And I love the call out and the gusto from Pants because he's fought all these guys anyways. So what do we do here, AK? Who does Alexandre Pantoja fight next after pretty much fighting everybody already?
This wasn't a hard episode for me. I think I had done some previous like matchups with so and so faces winner, loser, etc., from this main card. So, but I also don't love like everything I landed on. Like it didn't take me as much time to follow up some of the matches I thought. But there's nothing. I don't think I came up with anything where I'm like, not even like crystal ball picks. Where like, oh, if this happens next, I'm super hyped. Like I think I see a path, a logical path for a lot of these guys. And some of them, like, I hope I'm wrong. I hope the UFC pulls out some like kind of creative matchmaking that I hadn't even thought of and gives it something exciting. So a while ago, I think after Roy Val's last win, really, I've been calling for him to fight Pantoja again for a while. Probably too early after their first fight. But now that Pantoja's 2 defenses removed, Roy Val, I think, is 2 fights removed from that loss as well. Their second fight. Run it back. I've said so many times, I just don't think that was the best version of Roy Val. No excuses. That's on him. He should have showed up on fight night. He lost fair and square to Pantoja, but it should have been a much more exciting fight. It should have been a much better showing from Roy Val. It should have been the year of the Raw Dog, and frankly, it could be again. So I do want to see them fight again. This is something I called for, and that's about it. That's really all I have to say about it for now. I would love a DJ fight. I think that'd be so cool. I'd love it if they could find some other flyweight champion from another league that I can't even think of. I don't even know if there is a more intriguing guy than Asakura, who wasn't even a flyweight over in Ryzen. But I think the safe thing to do is Pantoja for Roy Val, which again, we're talking co-main event here, and they might need to give a $15 discount for that one if that ends up being a headliner, Mike.
Not going skiing. It's just freaking cold in Command Center 4.0. Nick, please don't even talk about this. No Henry Cejudo. Cejudo fighting for any belts. That would just be absolutely insane. You want to hear Boston Mike come out in full force. That would be one of the things that will absolutely do it. Plus they're buds. They've trained together. I don't see them fighting each other. So I have a crystal ball pick, and then I want Kyoji Horiguchi. I mean, I want DJ. That would be the first choice, obviously. Kyoji Horiguchi is choice number 2. Kyoji is fighting December 31st on that Ryzen Decade card against Kazumulo Zulu. And there seems to be a little relationship between the UFC and Ryzen these days. So maybe we have Pantoja just sort of run the V-Ryzen Championship gauntlet. I would have no issue with that. Plus Horiguchi friggin' rules. And that's just a really fun fight. I actually think Pantoja would probably win that fight and be kind of pretty favored to do so the more I look at it, but that'd just be fun. It's just a different kind of a story we could tell. It'd be like a terrific co-main event for a pay-per-view. If we're not going that route, let's say Horiguchi loses December 31st, then we're right on the right track, AK. Not quite a friends forever. It's Brandon versus Brandon 3. Winner of that keeps the name and gets a title shot.
Oh, okay. So we got a little build up. You're not throwing either Brandon into another fight with Pantoja just yet. Yeah, I mean that's fine. That's fine. The other thing I thought of was the ship has so clearly sailed, and I don't think we see this guy back at 125. I would love to see Pantoja get a chance to get the Figgy loss back, because that was a long time ago. I think that was 2019, and I'm not sure it goes any differently. Like I think Figgy is just that good. And like matchup wise, like, you know, styles make fights, right? He could fight Moreno 5 times. Maybe Moreno always beats him, but Figgy could fight Pantoja 5 times, and maybe Figgy wins the majority of those contests. I don't know. So it's not going to happen. I think Figgy's having a good time at 135. I think that's where his career is going to ride out. But that's a win, because I am a believer that Pantoja can keep climbing in the flyweight like all-time great rankings. I don't think there's enough time to catch up to Demetrius Johnson. That's just not going to happen. Even if Demetrius came back and beat him, it wouldn't necessarily make him better than Demetrius on the list, right? Where you still have to compare resumes if they're at different points in their career and so on and so forth. But Figgy is one I would like to see him get back, because I do think you look at the mark and you're like, oh, well, this is one of the losses that keeps him from being, you know, me putting him over who I don't know, whoever you want to put, like Cejudo if you have him up there, which Aljamain Sterling, Demetrius Johnson. So it's not going to happen, but that'd be a cool one. But no, I think we're leaning towards yes, either a Brandon rematch. I lean towards Royval, but that's pretty much what's in store for Pantoja. He's a great champion. He's a great champion. Good, man. It's a shame people think so low of the flyweight division. I always see comments like the division is bad, and I'm just like, it's not bad. It's just not deep. It's just of the men's roster, they have the least amount of fighters. But if you go 1 to 20, I'll put the top 20 of flyweight against any other division in the UFC. Look at the names in the flyweight division. Look at the UFC's top 15 rankings. Look at our top 15 rankings. Look at Fight Matrix, whatever. Well, they use other promotions, but everyone from 1 to like 20 is someone you're like, oh, they have the potential to either be top 10 or compete for a title, and not just because of how thin the division is, but because of their skills, how exciting they're. Like, you've probably seen very few bad flyweight fights this year, and again, there's less than other divisions. I understand, but it is such a good division. This goes back honestly to when Demetrius was champion, and people were writing down his challenges. It's just never going to get the respect it deserves, just because it's not as many guys, but the quality has always been high. So I don't know.
We had so many people in the watch party chat calling Pantoja boring last night.
Oh my God, what are they watching? What
are you talking about? This guy is like so fun. That Moreno, go rewatch the Moreno fight from last year. Like, it is the best. It's so the best flyweight title fight of all time.
So good.
Like, it's not by far. It's the best flyweight title fight of all time. It's so good, and Pantoja is just fun. But if you hand him, he made Vinny, like, him and Vinny Siggs had a fun scrap.
That fight was good. That was a good
really
fight.
Good. It was really good. The Royval fight wasn't.
Yeah,
what we thought it would be, but I don't blame Pants for that. That was just Royval being like, and he even admitted, like, he played it safe. He didn't do the raw dog. It wasn't the year of the raw dog, at least not that card, but I'd love to see those guys fight again. And if Brandon beats Brandon, then we get Brandon versus Pants again. But let's continue on. Let's talk about Kai Asakura, because there's an interesting question here, AK. Does Kai Asakura remain at flyweight? Does he move back up to bantamweight? Because there's a lot of fun fights for him there. And I'm a man of consistency. I'm a man who likes to take a gimmick to the next level. I'm a man who likes to extend the theme for as long as possible. And if we're going to do Brandon versus Brandon, we might as well do Kai versus Kai, AK. A little Kai Asakura versus Kai Car France. A little flyweight action. Maybe we do that at UFC 312, AK. A little Kai versus Kai. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's okay. So I think I had previously matched up Kai Car France with someone, which I guess is why I didn't want to lean in that direction. But it's such a cool idea. Even it does feel like it has to happen in Australia because with that card coming up. But that's a bit of a turnaround for Asakura, especially since I don't know how easy the 125 cut was for him. I saw a lot of people. I got a DM or two about people saying, "Oh, do you think like Kai's going to make it? He's only competed at 135." And I said, "Well, yes, he is very tall for the division, but they don't really cut weight over that in Japan that much. It's just not a thing like extreme weight cutting. Same with we talk about one championship all the time, and that's not the same. That's not the same place. But I'm just saying." Outside of the US, there are definitely promotions and like fight cultures that don't do the extreme weight cutting thing. So that's just not what Kai was doing. I think he's actually closer to 125 than people think. But I don't think it's an easy cut. So my concern is that he's not someone who, if he stays at flyweight, will want to be fighting like 3 times a year. I think that's actually hard for him to do. And I think his future probably is to just go to 135 and have exciting fights there. So that's my one worry about the turnaround for Australia, which we know is happening in a couple of months. I just don't know if he should stick around at 125 and try to fight again that frequently. So I had to, but I mean, on paper, that's a very probably a super logical matchup. I had to go back on a previous pick. I wanted Charles Johnson to fight this guy, but I think the other way to go is Manel Kopp, win, lose, or draw versus Bruno Silva, trilogy bout with Kai Asakura. They fought twice in Ryzen. Kai won a pretty close fight the first time around, and then Kopp just smashed him in the second fight. So Kai would definitely want to get that one back. It's to the point where I think people forget the first Kopp fight happened. So Kai would definitely want to get that one back. Kopp, I think, would love to fight Kai. Again, he got the win on him. Kai has a bit of buzz. I know, the fight didn't go his way. And after he beats Bruno Silva, it's actually going to be kind of unclear where Kopp is going to go. So that's a good way to aim up. Again, I don't know where Kai's going to end up in the rankings, in ours or the UFC's. when Tuesday rolls around. They'll probably put a number next to his name just to make it, just to justify what they did.
Yeah, of course.
but yeah, I think Cobb, that's still a good fight for Cobb to take. And by the way, sorry, one more thing. I know I'm rambling a lot today.
We love it.
Kai didn't do badly. He landed a flying knee in the first 5 seconds that I'm telling you, that would have knocked out 80% of the fighters in the flyweight and the bantamweight division. That was clean. That was clean on Pantoja's chin. It's not Kai's fault that Pantoja is not human. Okay, Pantoja cannot be finished. That landed clean. He landed actually a lot of good shots to Pantoja. Pantoja is just that dude. So give all the praise to Pantoja, guys. Pantoja is so fantastic, but don't make it sound like, oh, Kai wasn't deserving and Kai got run over. He's not as good as Pantoja. There's no shame in that. Pantoja friggin' rules. He's one of the top 5 pound for pound fighters in the world. So don't take too many negatives out of this. Kai fought the way everyone expected him to fight. Very aggressive defense, secondary, and guess what? Yeah, that resulted in him getting finished. But he gave the people what they wanted. So I don't know. I hate the idea that people think oh, this proves he didn't deserve it. No, I thought he fought fine. He fought the way he fought, and he lost the way he fought. No,
he fought a dude you can't hurt. I mean, that was the thing for me, was as soon as he landed that, and I didn't know how clean that jumping knee was until I saw the replay. I was like, oh my God, he hit it with everything. And not only did it do nothing, Pantoja turned it into offense, which is so ridiculous. He's just such a freak, man. He's so good at this. And to me, I think he fought the best Alexandre Pantoja we've ever seen. That was the best performance of Pantoja's career, which is saying something. With all the great performances he's had. Kai had moments. He got run over, man, but just by a dude who was just on one. And you knew it as soon as man hit and you saw him start that walk out to the arena. You were just like, something's happening here. This guy might be in some trouble. So yeah, flyweight's real fun heading into 2025. Let's see what Manel Kape and Bruno Silva do. And yeah, we know where Shavkat Rakhmonov's going, AK. He's going to fight Bilal Muhammad for the welterweight title. Beats Ian Machado Garry in a very competitive fight, 48-47 across the board. I think everybody's sort of one of the easiest fights to score, maybe of 2024. We just knew what this is going to be. 1-2-4 for Shavkat. Garry almost gets the win in round 5 out of nowhere. The wily striker almost submits the menacing grappler, but Shavkat gets the win. We know where he's going, so we don't need a matchmate for Shavkat Rakhmonov. We shall matchmake for Ian Machado Garry, okay? What are we thinking here? Because, yes, it's a loss, but it's a loss where he obviously wins in a lot of people's eyes because, 1, he stepped up and took on the boogeyman. 2, as he said, and he's not wrong, made Shavkat look human in there. And 3, when you do the UFC a favor in a big spot, especially when you perform like that, you're usually rewarded with something good. Where they treat it as not a loss, but a win in some respects. So I'm super curious where you went for Ian Machado Garry.
Let me say, I got so excited about that rear naked choke until Rogan gave us oh, that's in deep. That he could have that.
And then the same thing.
Yeah. And then immediately just my energy level dropped. Oh, he's not going to finish it. This was a bet. It's not even worth commenting on anymore. It's not even a joke anymore. Literally, I don't think he's once called the entire year, probably the last 5 years, once called a submission, a near submission correctly. Just can't do. I think there was one point on the Volkov Gane fight at the end where he's like, oh, Volkov's going to choke Gane out from side control. I was like, what is going on? There's no doubt that Joe Rogan knows way more about grappling, submission grappling, jiu-jitsu than I ever will. But something happens when he's in front of a live mic where all just rational thought just goes out the window. And again, it's his job to make things more exciting. This is broadcast. He's not doing a written essay on the fight. So I'm sure if he really looked at footage and broke it down, I think Joe Rogan could actually give you a better, pretty good grasp of what he's watching. It's just when he's live and he's cage side, holy crap! Once he sees anything close to a submission, he just goes insane. And that one actually did look good until he said it, and I'm like, damn it, Joe. So I'm not blaming Joe Rogan, but I was just like, that's funny. Just I can't stand this guy. Him and DC both calling submissions locked in anymore because they're just not. Man, Ian Machado Garry, his stock rose, and he nailed that post-fight press conference. Really good performance. nailed the post-fight press conference, said the right things about like he didn't think he lost the fight, but also while putting Rakhmonov over, not saying like, oh, I destroyed him, this guy was nothing. No, he's like I know how good Shavkat is, and that's how I know how good I am now. That was perfect. He nailed that. Had a laugh about having to change his shorts. He complimented Jose Young's jacket. It was just a 5 out of 5, like a star performance on the mic for Ian Machado Garry. After, if you like him, I think you'd like him even more. If you don't like him, it's not going to change your mind anyway. But this was how to handle your first career loss, especially one where you pretty clearly won 2 of the rounds against the boogeyman, the dangerous man of the welterweight division. So somehow both guys' stock rose. I mean, again, Rakhmonov made it stay neutral, but that's all where it needed to be because, like we said, he was supposed to get the title shot anyway, still in line. And Ian Machado Garry, I think silenced a lot of people. I've always thought he was a really good fighter, and I saw a lot of people saying he was just going to get trucked. I picked Rakhmonov to win, but I didn't think Garry was going to have his moments, though it surpassed even my expectations. Mike, we might be queuing up the band.
Oh,
I don't know. We got a card coming up next week. We got a name in the main event that Mr. Ian Machado Garry is not a fond of, and I feel like
I have a message for the band.
Oh,
I have a message for the band. Keep drinking coffee. Have some more breakfast. No playing for you.
Oh no, because Colby Covington, of course, is fighting Joaquin Buckley in next Saturday's main event, and I never matchmake for Colby because I think I say every time someone brings it up in the picks, like I just don't care about seeing this guy fight again. But he is fighting again. He's booked. He is fighting. So let me see Colby if he wins after he depresses us all by beating Joaquin Buckley in the last UFC fight of the year. He's going to call for Ian, and we're going to see that fight in 2025.
Do you think he calls for Ian? I don't think he calls for Ian.
I think this is the right time.
He's like afraid of him. He's going to call for a title fight. 1,000,000,000%
no.
he's going to call for a title fight.
Please, no.
Dude, if he goes in there, because almost the same reasoning that Ian Garry gets praise here. He stepped up and did the UFC a solid. At least that's how the UFC brass will view it. He goes in there and saves a fight night card, which is probably going to break a gate record. Let's be honest. It'll probably be the highest selling fight night in UFC history in North America because they do that every time. If Colby goes in there and thumps up Joaquin Buckley, he ain't jumping. I mean, I don't like this out there, as did, you can see. But at the end of the day, like Colby is one of the 3 best prize fighters in the history of the UFC. The man just knows what he's doing. You can like him, you can not like him, totally understand both sides of things. He is one of the 3 best prize fighters in the history of the company. And the reason he took this fight is because he probably knows what could come from it. So it made, if he wants to fight Garry, then they'll just give him that. I don't think he's going to call for that. And as a matter of fact, if he goes out there and just dominates, I don't think he's going to fight at all until he gets a title fight. And if Belal Muhammad beats Shavkat, who Bilal's calling out. He's calling out Colby Covington. Guarantee it. It is a freaking guarantee. So Ian Machado Garry's going to fight Kamaru Usman next. They're just going to make it happen.
I like it. I
will say this. The biggest loser of UFC 310 was Kamaru Usman. First of all, him not fighting Shavkat was unreal. Like, I'm still absolutely shocked that he did not take this fight because this is it, man. Like, it's a new division and this new generation of welterweights are coming. They are coming and they're coming fast and they're jumping over Kamaru right now. Every single one of them. Ian Garry's now above Kamaru in the UFC's eyes. Shavkat is above Kamaru in the UFC's eyes. Joaquin Buckley, right this second, is above Kamaru in the UFC's eyes. And even the man I just talked about, because he's stepping up, is above Kamaru Usman in the UFC's eyes. Not to mention Leon Edwards, because they do go to the UK twice a year. Kamaru, as each day goes by, is getting more and more forgotten in this conversation. And I thought it was absolutely malpractice that he did not take this fight. Because even if he lost, like, who cares? You could be in the same sort of position as Ian Garry right now, where it's like, dude, you stepped up on short notice and fought Khamzat and Shavkat in back-to-back fights. Like, you're a menace. He will have favor forever doing that. And I guarantee you him watching that fight and watching what Ian Garry was able to do with some of the grappling, he was probably like, son of a bitch, I could have beat this guy. I honestly think, like, in the division, if Kamaru is on, he is a really tough fight for Shavkat. Like, he's a really difficult matchup for Shavkat. I think the more that this division plays out, the further back he falls. So I think he lost a ton here. So I think the one way the UFC is going to pitch this to him and his team is they're going to say, look, man, you got to fight this guy. Like, you can't pick and choose who you're fighting here. You're not fighting Leon. You're not fighting Colby. You're not fighting any of the big names. You're not welcoming back Jorge Masvidal. You're fighting this guy. Like, this is what we're doing. Either take it or you're just not ever going to fight for the belt again. Take it. And I think that's kind of the situation that they're going to have to put him in right now. So, yeah, I think they're going to go Garry versus Usman. Could it, if Colby goes out and gets and loses to Joaquin Buckley, could I see them trying to do Garry versus Colby? Sure. But if Colby wins, Colby ain't fighting Garry. There's no chance that fight happens.
I'm not as hard on Kamaru, but in the court of public perception, this was a big hit. This was a big hit for sure.
Huge.
He never should have even thrown his hat in the ring in the first place. That was the big misstep. If he had just said nothing, sure, there would have been some speculation. Oh, can Kamaru step in for UFC 310? But again, this is what happens when you enter that podcast world, right? It's like you got to say stuff, you got to put out content, and sure enough, of course, he's asked about UFC 310. He's going to say, yeah, I'll take it. Oh, I'm ready to fight Shavkat. I'm not scared of him. I'll take him. Yeah, we trained together, but whatever. That doesn't mean anything, blah, blah. And that was his mistake. And now, people, everything on the internet lives forever. People will keep those receipts forever. It's just one of those things people are always going to bring up. Why didn't you fight at 310? Oh, you duck shot. You could have had Shavkat. Look how well Gary did. Look what Gary did. Look where Gary is now. Gary left over you now, maybe in the contender rankings just because you didn't fight and all this stuff. So, and again, and I'm not saying it's fair, but the door is open to that. So again, I'm not as hard because I think I want to believe Usman knows what he's doing. I'm not entirely sure what his strategy is right now, but if he ends up getting like a favorable fight somewhere in the first half of 2025, then good for him. It all worked out. But this was like would have been a nice situation for him to step in and see where he is with Shavkat, see where he is in the current division. And like you said, if he loses, it's what would have been expected, right? And that's what happened to Gary, and he's rolling with it. I still believe Colby Gary can happen only because now you know him better than I do, Mike. You've spoken to Colby many times. I have to think there's a part of him that is clearly he's willing to wait. I was going to say that doesn't want to wait. But clearly he's willing to fight once a year, so it doesn't matter. But she doesn't know when Shavkat and Bilal's going to get booked. I guess we're all assuming 313, 314, 315. Fingers crossed somewhere in there, depending when Bilal's ready. And the welterweight division is kind of moving. I don't know if he thinks if he's that confident that they'll throw him in there. As much as they like him, as much as the political climate around the UFC maybe favors him right now, I don't know if he can bank on that anymore. And I think there's enough juice in the Gary name, plus Colby actually thinking he can maybe win that matchup, that he would at least consider it. I don't think it's his number one choice. I do think he's going to do the call out though, Mike. I do think he's going to do the call out. He doesn't have to stick to it. Right? Like you said, things change. Boom, pivot. After whenever Usman Rakhmonov's announced, pivot to that. I'll beat up all these bums, blah, blah, record a little video on his Instagram or his Twitter, whatever he does when those things happen. Pivot. No one wrote, whatever. We'll have the Gary call out, but this is the fight game. You can call someone out. You can change your mind the next day. It doesn't matter. There's so many podcasts, so many outlets for you to speak your opinion. Just keep yourself in the mix. And I think that's what Covington's going to do. I think he's going to keep his options open. So maybe it's a bit of wishful thinking, but I'd like to see him and Gary share the cage.
Yeah. I mean, I'm shocked that was a perfect main event for Tampa. But now Gary's like, but again, like legacy and name value and what you've done in the past don't mean shit anymore. What it comes down to is availability is your best friend. And when that phone rings, if you say yes, you're in a much better spot than the guy who didn't. That's just today's UFC. That's the modern era of the promotion. That's what it comes down to. And what Shavkat and Gary both did by taking this fight, this is very old school shit. This is the stuff that made us fall in love with this sport a decade ago, was seeing the two best guys fight. Seeing guys take risk and just putting it all on the line. Like Shavkat putting a title shot on the line. He could have waited 3 months and fought for the belt. He said, F it. I'm going to fight this undefeated dude. I'm just going to fight because I haven't fought in a year. No one would fight me. So I'm just going to fight him. Like it's sick. It was awesome. Everything about it was awesome. Wasn't the most thrilling fight, but both those guys, shout out to both of them.
Mike, I'm glad we talked about those fights a lot because I am in no rush to get to our next matchmaking job here. I struggled, man. I struggled to the next one. I'll just say that.
Well, here's what I will say, because there's always I always take a road for a reason. My brain works in just really mysterious ways.
Interesting.
We talked about the loser of UFC 310 in the welterweight division was Kamaru Usman. Want to know who the winner of UFC 310 from a guy who did not fight at all last night on the entire card? Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall. The price to pay for Tom Aspinall just went up significantly after last night. The UFC is now in a position, and you know who else won? John Jones won last night too, because the UFC is now in a position where Tom Aspinall is nobody to fucking fight. Like, he has no one to fight, because Gane ain't getting a title shot after that performance. I'm sorry. He's just not getting it. And you can't give it to Volkov. Court of public opinion aside, you can't just give a guy who lost a fight a title shot, even though the masses feels like he won it. Now the UFC is like, okay, Cyril's going to beat Volkov, and then we could do Cyril versus Tom. That could be the real belt, and then John can go fight Alex Pereira and, like, do whatever. Now Tom is nobody to fight. And now the UFC might just be forced to pay John and Tom whatever it takes to book this fight. And here's a message to Tom Aspinall and his management team. The price today is not what it was yesterday. Your price just went up to fight John Jones after what just happened yesterday. The UFC wanting and needing you right now, their desire to have you compete against somebody at high level just shot through the roof after what we just saw in the Cyril Gane fight. So I'm going to say Cyril Gane has to fight Sergey Pavlovich next, AK. Like, I don't know what to do. He's not getting Aspinall. He's not fighting for the belt. I wouldn't even hate if they did a Volkov trilogy fight next, because he gained nothing from this. It was tough, man. It was tough. And I respect the honesty and him being, like, so pissed off about all of this. Got hurt early, and I take that into account of all of this. But it was just so bad the way that fight ended, man. I say he fights somebody else, and Tom just kind of chills and hopes the UFC picks up that phone and says, hey, John's in.
It's nasty. It's nasty. Yeah, I
know. I hate myself for it. But
no, I know. I honestly, I didn't even lock in here because for me, you know me, I'm still living in a dream world where John Jones versus Tom Aspinall is going to happen. You know, it's going to just be neatly resolved by the third week of January. We're going to hear, John changed his mind. Him and Tom came to an agreement, shook hands, and we'll have John Jones versus Tom Aspinall sometime during UFC Fight Week or something like that. I can't let it go. I really want to see this fight happen. I know it's not. So my pick, my magic wand pick, I guess, was Gane is the backup for Jones Aspinall. Again, such a weak choice. I know. I really didn't know where maybe Gane ends up fighting Curtis Blades or some shit. Put his newfound wrestling skills to good use. Like it really was like one of the worst possible results the UFC could have had as far as sorting out what to do with this whole Tom Aspinall, John Jones, and then everyone else situation. So I guess my official pick is he's gonna fight Curtis Blades sometime in 2025, but I can't imagine Cyril wanting that to having any interest in that fight. I think it would be a good fight, intriguing at least, like good in the way this fight was on Saturday. But yeah, I don't know. That was messy business, man. That was messy.
So messy. Oof. Absolutely, just a disaster for the heavyweight division, which is already historically bad right now anyways. Like, this is just the worst thing that could happen. People are wondering why, like, Dana was so pissed off last night at the post-fight presser. That fight did not help. There's no way that fight helped at all. So, Cyril Gane versus TBD. We shall see what happens. Now we have to talk about featherweight. Bryce Mitchell has won the Flat Earth Bowl. Congratulations to him. He slam KOs Crone Gracie, and then lands two probably unnecessary elbows on top of it, because Crone was out the second he hit the mat, and then the first elbow woke him up a little bit, but he was still pretty much out, and then the second elbow almost decapitated him. And Bryce Mitchell back on track after suffering one of the worst knockout losses in the history of the UFC. don't know what to do. I mean, I think I know where I'm going, AK, but I'm very curious to see where you went here, because Ho Choi did call out Bryce Mitchell before this fight even happened. It's almost like he saw something coming and just knew it and set the table. Did you go with that Korean Superboy versus Bryce Mitchell?
No, I probably should have. I probably shouldn't have racked my brain over this one as much as I had to, as I decided to, I should say. Is it weird? I kind of want to see how Bryce goes with Aljo. Maybe I'm just still high on the wrestling that we saw, and I get this would be a step back for Aljamain Sterling, considering he just had a pretty competitive fight with a guy who is like the clear-cut number 2 featherweight in the world. If you're going to get mad about that. With respect to Volk and Holloway, I'm picking Evloev to beat everybody except maybe Ilya right now. I think Evloev is that good. But Aljamain Sterling also still very good. This is a former UFC champion, and I picked Evloev, but I think I picked Evloev to win a little bit easier than it turned out. So I didn't give the man enough credit. He really gave Evloev a run for his money. So I don't know what Aljo's plan is at 145. I know he's at the stage where he just wants to angle for big fights. That's totally understandable. But I just don't know if he has the cachet, or again, now the record, now just 1-1 the division to do that sort of thing. So I think we have to see him tested again, and maybe Bryce Mitchell's the way to go. Again, we get some more fun grappling and move on from there. And frankly, we can still see what we have with Bryce. I know that Emmett knockout pretty much wiped away any support for people thinking he's going to be a contender one day, but we don't know. Crazier things have happened in this business. Colby Covington has fought for a UFC title 3 times. So if you don't think Bryce Mitchell can somehow sneak into a title shot with a good run of matchups, I mean, again, you haven't watching combat sports long enough, I guess, and a win over Aljo would move him very nicely in the right direction.
I also went with Aljamain Sterling.
Okay.
For Ho Choi.
Come on, Mike.
Sorry. I'm going with Bryce, but I don't think Bryce gains anything from this. Kron Gracie is like, no, I don't want to be an absolute asshole about this, but Kron Gracie is like the 900th ranked featherweight in the world. I'm sorry. Like, you just gain nothing from this. Cool finish. It's good to see him back on track. I actually thought the post-fight stuff was pretty good. The apology to Joe Rogan, I thought was kind of cool. All in all, not a bad night at the office for Bryce Mitchell, but he beat a guy who's probably not even in the top 60 in this division. So I can't really give him too much from this. I'm going Bryce Mitchell versus Yusuf Salal. Yusuf Salal gets his opportunity to fight a top 15 guy who's on a roll right now, like on a much better run than Bryce Mitchell is currently on. And I would like to see what he can do, man. Like, if Bryce beats Yusuf, then to me, I'm like, all right, like, now we can go. Now we can move him up a little bit more. But I can't give him too much of a jump after beating Kron Gracie and like almost getting stopped in the second round in that fight. It was real weird to watch, but like Bryce is in big trouble. Almost got tapped by Kron Gracie. So yeah, I'm going Ho Choi versus Aljamain Sterling because he looked friggin' incredible against pretty decent. Like, I don't think Nate Landwehr is a world beater, but Nate Landwehr would thump Kron Gracie up proper. That fight would not be all that competitive. Like, it just wouldn't. So yeah, Ho Choi versus Sterling, Bryce versus Yusuf. That's what I went with.
I like both those. Got no problem with Choi. I went in a different direction. I'm going back to the UFC Tampa well one more time, Mike. Dipping back into those sweet, sweet Florida waters, and I think win, lose, or draw. Cub Swanson, Billy Quarantillo. Let's run that one. Let's run Cub and Ho Choi again.
Oh man,
they John Anik, when he was doing the weigh-ins, he was like calling up like, oh, here comes UFC Hall of Famer Ho Choi, and I was like, that's right. I'm like, Ho Choi is a Hall of Famer in the fight wing, of course, for his incredible battle with Cub Swanson, which happened in Toronto, which I was here. It's a horrible story. I wasn't cage side for that fight. I don't remember why. I think I was like backstage trying to be studious, like poor Jose is all the time, just backstage, barely gets to watch any of the fights. I think I had the option of being out, and for that one, I just wasn't. And then like I saw like secondhand all this excitement. Anyway, terrible story. Missed a Hall of Fame fight live. Good for me. But yeah, where I don't think Choi is necessarily in that fight situation where like, oh, we just need to book him in fun fights. Like he's in his prime right now. I know he's you know, a little bit older now for a featherweight. It's hard to be, you know, once you creep towards 35 in this division. I know people start to count you out, but there's some element also of like he doesn't have as much wear and tear because he missed so much time. I feel like he's like a fresher 33 than 33 or 34, however old he is, than people think. And I actually like think he's another guy who could make a charge to a title shot in this division, like especially with the substantial improvements that he's made. So I'm not like moving him to a top 15 guy yet. I just think like the Cub fight would be so fun to revisit. I think it would probably be the first time that they've rebooked a Hall of Fame fight. I mean, just because they didn't. I'm the Hall of Fame. Trying to think how long the fight wing has even existed, and more often, of course, it's fights with people. It's, you know, they induct fights with people who are long retired. But Cub and Choi are still around, so if they ever want to have this opportunity to actually like say, hey, here's a Hall of Fame fight part 2. This is it. This is it. So I would love to see that, no matter what happens with Cub and Quarantillo on next Saturday.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously fun, but yeah, it's nice to see Duo Choi like back in there a little more consistently and in his athletic prime, because he looked incredible. Like Nate Landwehr had nothing for him, and Nate usually has at least something for everybody. And most people, everybody read this fight was Duo Choi's gonna absolutely clobber him, and then Nate's just gonna survive and knock him out. And that didn't happen here. Duo Choi just blasted him everywhere this fight went. Just complete domination. He looked fantastic. So Duo Choi is going to be very exciting. Let's go to the wild card round, AK. Let's get to it. Let's matchmake for a fighter we've not matchmade for yet. We'll matchmake for them right now. Who did you go with, AK?
There was a lot of good options here. I lean towards Chase Hooper. And I tried to like not just go with his call out, especially since I had, I think previously, last time Jim Miller fight, I think I used him as my wild card pick, and I was like, I'm just trying to find fun matchups, fun, vaguely age appropriate matchups for him, and I threw Jim Miller in with Rafa Garcia, but him and Hooper makes so much more sense. I've seen like this was obviously Chase talked about it, and then I saw the replies on social media saying like he's not on that level yet, and you guys might be right, like people might be right. It is. I'm not saying Hooper needs to go on a Legends Killer tour, but that'd be a fine gimmick to go with right now. And I think Jim Miller has a little bit more left in the tank than Clay Guida. With respect to Clay, who's still in great shape, I just don't think fighting wise, he can pull that trigger anymore. I think the skill gap between him and some of the younger guys is just a little too big right now. But I wouldn't say the same for Jim. I mean, Jim Miller is still winning fights. Jim Miller's still very competitive. It keeps Jim trudging along towards, you know, that magic number of 50 UFC fights. Because again, win or lose, I don't think Jim Miller just retires if he loses to Chase Hooper. And if he wins, I mean, good for him. And again, not the end of Chase Hooper's career. Mike, you and I have been very critical of, you know, some of Chase's booking and whether he should have been pushed so quickly into competitive fights in the UFC. Like, should he have even been sent back to the regionals, like on some sort of, you know, modified developmental deal? But good for him and the UFC for sticking with it. We still don't know what his ceiling is, but he's still pretty young. And I thought he looked great against Clay Guida, as he should have. Took care of business. And I think we can still see him fight more veteran guys. So if they want to give him like another like streaking contender, I'm fine with that too. But for now, again, I want to kind of keep gauging where he is. And really, more importantly, finding fun fights for Jim Miller. So yeah, I think that was a great. I think it was suggested to Chase, but I think that was a great suggestion from whoever threw that out there.
Yeah, that's fun, man. I like Chase versus any of those. I like Joe Lozon. I know Joe wanted that fight. Maybe when they went to Boston last year, that's like what he wanted. I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't go with Tony Ferguson for Chase Hooper, because that actually is like not horrific. I wouldn't feel great about it, but I would understand it a little bit. I think most would be like, hey, you're going to pick Movsar. I'm not going to pick Movsar, because this is the most obvious matchmaking of all time. He should get a title shot. He won't. So he's going to have to fight Diego Lopez again, and that's going to rock. And I'm very excited for that. I went with Josh Van. This guy is so fun to watch at 125. We talk about how good 125 is. Josh Van wasn't even ranked at Flyweight, and clearly he is a top 5 talent. There's no doubt about it. Little green, little raw, but he beat the soul out of Cody Durden, who was tough as hell last night. So now we're going to do it. We're going to give this man a little step up, AK. We're going to give him a step up. And we're going to see a world, possibly, if Josh Van is ready to come back in a couple of months, we head to Australia, the land down under, and we do Josh Van versus one Vincenzo Urseg. Little Josh Van, Vinny Siggs action, because guess what? The boxing in that fight, the striking in that fight is going to be unfriggin' believable. So Josh Van, Vinny Siggs, come on down.
It's a great fight. This division rules. We were talking about earlier. This division rules. Pick 2 names in the top 25, throw them in there together. Look at next week, Bruno Silva, Manel Kape. That's an awesome fight. I know there's not a lot of hype around it. I know Bruno Silva for some reason doesn't get the hype that like Manel Kape does. Bruno Silva is sick. Like the dude is so good. His fights are so exciting. And I love the idea of Josh Van and Vinny Siggs. So flyweight just keeps chugging along. Not the deep division, that's fine, but man, just one great fight after another.
So good. So good. All right, we're gonna open it up to the peeps.
Yes, Mike, I did pin a question on YouTube because I want to remember to ask you. This is from a while ago. This is from Masters of the Universe Classic. What did you guys think of the announcements of Tatiana and Dricus last night, their title fights? Khamzat, I think it's a timing issue. He'll get the shot still, I think. I have no problem with the fights that were booked. I was fully on the Khamzat train for sure for wanting to see him get it, but they've been talking about Duplessis and Strickland forever. So Dana White said like months ago, like, yes, this is the plan. He was pretty transparent, like that even before the Khamzat win, of course, but so it's fine. I'd rather see Khamzat, but the time is right, I think, from the rematch. Competitive first fight. Both guys have won since and run it back. It was more the way it was announced was a bit curious. They just put Tatiana on screen, and then there's suddenly,
I love that.
And then there's
so
suddenly
much.
there was a lower third. Like, oh, by the way, she's fighting Zhang Weili at UFC 3 times. And I was like leaned in. I'm like, what? I'm like googling. I'm like, did we miss? Did we report this? Did we miss this? And it's like, no, it's just happening. And I think one reason they did it is because they have no confidence in Tatiana making it to fight night, frankly, and like. If it plans change, they'll just be like, what do you mean? We never announced it at UFC 310. I don't remember that. So, but yeah, both great fights. It's gonna the first 2 pay-per-views of the UFC calendar year. Fingers crossed, no injuries, no one like getting forced off the card. Pretty well set. It looks really good.
My initial reaction was just like, wow, this is out of nowhere. I didn't see it because for the same reasons. This is on the lower third, and we had to react to it live in real time during the watch party. But the more I think about how I actually felt about it was relief with Strickland DDP, and not because like I feel like this is the fight to make. It's that it's happening so quickly in 2025. Like we're not waiting till August for Dricus Du Plessis to fight again and to get the Sean Strickland fight out of the way, because that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of how everyone's viewing this, is like, let's just have these 2 dudes fight. Whoever wins will go fight Khamzat Chimaev. Like Khamzat is next for whoever wins this fight. So, and I want to see Khamzat fight both of these guys. Like Sean Strickland versus Khamzat Chimaev is really, really interesting. And then Dricus Du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev is just full on transformer shit that I'm really excited about. So yeah, the winner's Khamzat's just going to be chilling cage side potentially, and he'll do a little face off with the winner. And it's happened earlier in the year. The Tatiana Suarez getting a title shot one was real weird. Not because I don't think she deserves it. It's just like she was supposed to fight Verna last night and then was pulled for quote unquote health reasons and then books a title fight 2 months later. What the hell is that? Like Verna not get like, I feel like Verna got the big, like she got the short end of the stick here. Like, but maybe they already have her like kind of tabbed as like, look, we're going to announce Tatiana, but you should probably be ready. Just in case, but
she's weighing in.
Yeah,
she's weighing in.
That's super weird.
She's definitely weighing in.
That one threw me off a little bit.
I see people asking in the comments, what was Suarez's health issue? And if you remember, she actually, like, when the news broke, she reacted right away. I think, I don't know if it was to us or May Junkie or something. And she was saying, oh, this is reports not fake. Like, I'm fine. So she didn't really acknowledge that there was an injury.
Because it wasn't listed as an injury. It was listed as, like, when we confirmed it, we were told it was a health issue, but it wasn't an injury. Yes. So when she was replying to people, it was when people saying that Tatiana Suarez is injured and out of the fight. And she's like, nah, dude, I'm not injured. Like,
okay.
You know what I mean? So it was just a technicality thing.
Yeah. I feel like technicality. I feel like there's also, like I said, some communication issues maybe with, I don't know, with her management and the organization or with Virna. It is weird. It is weird that, again, we kind of ended up getting the fight we've wanted all along, but the road to it was extraordinarily bumpy and confusing. But yeah, Virna will be the backup. She will weigh in. You'll see. You guys will see her in January. You'll see her at the scale. And hopefully not in the cage the following day, because I do want to see Tatiana and Zhang Weili just finally get that settled. But if that's what happens, good for Virna, because she certainly earned a title shot.
Yeah. All right. So those are our reactions.
Yeah.
312 is looking pretty good. 311 looks incredible. Wonder where 313 is. Maybe that's Bilal versus Shavkat. Let's just book 2 titles, and maybe we'll throw Valentina and maybe Fioro is the co-main event on that card. Like, let's just load them up.
C14, Jones Aspinall. Yeah, it's great, man. UFC just keeps rolling. It's crazy. Just keeps rolling along.
Tom might have to drop to light heavyweight at this point. He's got nobody to fight.
Patty Pimblett, Michael Chandler co-main event. Man, that 314 is fire. It is fire.
It's the best.
People don't report this, please. Don't report these fights.
All right, here we go. Kennedy versus Marcus Rogério de Lima. Good old Kenny Nunchucks.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Nzechukwu. I just laughed when Rogan was like, "We got a new contender at heavyweight." And yes, heavyweight is maybe the only division like depth-wise shallower than flyweight. But for God's sakes, he beat a one-legged Chris Barnett. We all love Beast Boy. He beat a one-legged Chris Barnett, and he beat Lucas Bresky, who is of the Barry Horowitz division of.
He's not even Barry Horowitz. Barry Horowitz got wins. Barry Horowitz got wins.
Bresky beat Walter Walker, I think. I think he's 1-5. So, and again, that's not a big feather in his cap. I don't know where Walter Walker is as far as people's estimation, but yeah, let's chill. Kennedy's having
employed forever though. He needs to be employed forever because he gets got real good. Oh yeah, he gets got real good.
Yeah, I guess he is one of the. I guess he is one of those guys. But yeah, Kennedy having a great time, not cutting weight, obviously having fun. So I don't know if he's a player at heavyweight. Let's stop, guys. I know you only need like 2 or 3 wins to get to the top 10, but just Rogan, everyone else, just calm down. Good for him. Keep getting those checks, Kennedy. Rogan
was super positive last night, and I do dig it. But it's just kind of funny sometimes to hear him say some of the things that he says. Yeah, I don't hate that. Kennedy versus no, we did that one.
Yeah,
Kennedy,
maybe
stop suggesting anybody fight Waldo Cortez Acosta.
No.
Come on.
No, more Salsa Boy picks. People, give us your best Salsa Boy picks in the chat. Right? I'm so sorry, Mike. I'm so.
So much Kennedy here. Kennedy, Nzechukwu versus Tai Tuivasa.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we got a new player at heavyweight. Joe Rogan himself said it, So yeah, Kennedy Nzechukwu. People are interested.
He's like the old Yeller fighter, where it's just like, let's just take these dudes behind the shed, and Kennedy can just take them out for us, make our lives a little bit easier. Hooper versus Jared Gordon.
Thought about that. Yep.
Do the Oliveira title run, sure. We need Ty versus Parker Porter.
Bring him back. Alliteration battle. Bring it back.
I mean, I thought you liked Tai Tuivasa. I thought you liked him. You want him to just get run over by New England's finest. Tristan, Chase Hooper versus Alexander Hernandez. That's actually pretty interesting.
Yep, I like that.
Vicente Luque versus Chaos Williams. That fight ain't happening. That ain't happening. Why would Vicente Luque fight Chaos Williams? No, I mean, it's not that I wouldn't enjoy the fight. Luque is a ranked fighter. He was supposed to fight Nick Diaz, ends up fighting Temba Garimbo instead. Like, he already took his big step back. So let's throw somebody else in Luque's direction, perhaps. I actually thought about matching Gary up with Luque. Just as like a, here, man, we booked this one not that long ago. Let's just throw you in there. And Gary just gets a win, potentially. But I don't know. Bryan Battle versus Muslim Salikov, which I'm actually okay. Let's talk about Bryan Battle, AK.
Can we?
We can. There are people asking on the post-fight show, oh, he should get a top, maybe we should give him a top 15 guy because he's like 4-0-1 in his last 5. And I'm just like, nah, this guy's going backwards. Like, he's going backward. He gained absolutely nothing from this win against Randy Brown. 1, because I don't think he won. 2, a lot of people don't think he won. 3, it was not a good fight, especially down the stretch when Bryan Battle started changing momentum. He missed weight, did not care that he missed weight. Not a good night for him. This is Mario Batista-esque in my eyes. So what do you do with Bryan Battle?
Yeah, we're filling in a little UFC 310 like post event action report. You guys have been following MMAfighting.com. We've been the staff has been tackling those, and we always ask like best moments, worst moments. I didn't pick that, but I wonder if one of you, Mike, you or Damon or Jed, might point out Mr. Battle's very, very awful 48-hour stretch where he missed weight by 4 pounds. Second time he's missed weight too. That's not like, and we know he's like a taller guy. We know he won the Ultimate Fighter as a middleweight. So it's not like surprising that 170 is less than ideal for him. But, and again, he said after, oh, whatever, I kind of took this fight on shorter notice than usual, but that's your decision, man. That's your decision. If you can negotiate, if you could have negotiated a catch weight, that would have been great, like ahead of time. But you didn't, or your team didn't. And now you end up in the situation where it's just such an unsatisfying weekend for a guy who a lot of people are getting high on, because he's making a nice run at 170. Clearly has the talent, clearly has the physical gifts, but you miss weight by 4 pounds. You mishandle your microphone time after. Again, saying like, oh, I paid a fine, so it's like I don't like, it's okay, we don't have to talk about it anymore. I'm like, that's not how it works, man. Like, yeah, no, I didn't move him down my rankings, but I didn't have him that high anyway. So he remains neutral. He doesn't take Randy Brown's spot. Randy Brown's a top 20 welterweight. He still is in my eyes after that fight. I like Bryan, and I hope he gets things sorted out. I wish the UFC had more weight classes, because I don't think he's a 185er either. I think 175 would be perfect for him, but this is where we are. So just don't expect Bryan Battle to get like a high profile fight next time, guys. I would not expect it.
I would give Bryan Battle like Carlos Leal, like just a menace to society in that cage. If we're gonna do Chaos Williams against somebody, Bryan Battle versus Chaos Williams is not a bad idea. Like that one, I would rather do that for Bryan as opposed to Vicente Luque. Like he ain't getting this. Like Salikov is about as high as I would go with Battle.
Yeah.
You gotta be better, man.
The Salikov suggestion isn't bad. And you know what? Listen, this setback, again, which, if he had beaten Randy Brown, made weight, beaten Randy Brown cleanly, probably vaults him to the top 20, top 25. This might actually be good for Bryan Battle. I don't think people realize like how he has not been in MMA for a long time. He hasn't really been a dedicated fighter for a long time. There was, of course, infamous photos himself that he has shared of him as a heavyweight, like in his very first fight, just an enormous man, enormous heavyweight. So he's still like in fight years, relatively new to this game. His amateur in 2017, pro in 2019. That's not a long time, guys. And then onto the Ultimate Fighter, onto the UFC. You never want to see guys miss weight. You never want to see him win like kind of cruddy decisions like this. But this could be good for his development if it does mean he's dialed back and his next two fights are against, again, fighters outside the top 30. Because I don't think he's a top 20 guy yet. So Battle, I wish you the best.
All right, a couple more. Pantoja versus Kai France. Fight Almabayev, then winner takes on Pantoja. Wait, what?
Pantoja versus Kai, I think winner.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
So they fight Pantoja and Car. Oh.
That's okay. Kai Asakura versus Brandon Royval. Shavkat versus Bilal. Ian Gary versus the winner of Covington versus Buckley. So wait a minute. So
yeah, explain that to me again. I didn't get it.
So what he's saying is that the number one contender fight, the title eliminator fight, should be Kai France versus Asu Almabayev. No, sorry.
Oh, Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai France fights Almabayev, then winner takes one.
Yeah. So it'd be what, KKF versus Almabayev, and then the winner gets the title shot. Is that what I'm reading here?
I think that's what they're saying. I don't hate that. I don't, because I think Almabayev
is Moreno. Where the hell's Moreno in this conversation? Is it because he beat him 3 times? Which I get, but the fights are all so good.
I know.
The last one was a classic.
And you could argue Moreno won the third fight, frankly.
Yeah. Choi versus Ige, sure.
Yeah.
Spivak, Spivak versus Jailton Almeida. That's a fight that's happening, AK.
That's a fight, yeah. And I was almost going to say the winner, like just Almeida beats him and gets gone, but I didn't want to do that.
Pants versus DJ. That fight's never going to happen.
I'm
sorry. I hate to burst your bubbles, guys. DJ ain't fighting. And if he is, he ain't doing it in the UFC, because he could have just stayed in one, made way more money, and fought lesser competition. I would love to see that fight, but it's just never going to happen.
He shouldn't accept. Edwards. DJ shouldn't accept less than like $5 million to return to the UFC and fight Pantoja.
I don't even know if that does it.
And they wouldn't. And honestly, they would never. They didn't pay him that when he was there. Trust me, they're not paying him that to come back.
Yeah. Gary versus Edwards in London. Bilal versus Shavkat. Volkov versus Blades 2. Bryce versus Choi. I don't hate that. Dom versus Rakic seems to be very popular. Luque versus MVP. Battle Zaleski. Hooper Miller. Anders versus Trayshawn Gore. Kennedy versus Ty. Another Kennedy versus Ty. Maybe he is. Perhaps Kennedy is Nzechukwu is the dude.
I hope he
Luke
fights
Gay
like,
versus
I
Chiesa
hope Kennedy
rematch in
fights.
Seattle.
I hope Kennedy fights like Mo Usman in his next fight. I don't know.
Oh no. No. Battle versus Magny works fine. No, it doesn't. Sorry. He doesn't deserve that fight. Neil Magny is the elevator to the top 15. He doesn't know. You can't give that. He has not earned that. He needs go get a clean win, make weight against a guy like near where Randy Brown's, right? That's why I don't mind the Chaos Williams, like a top 30 guy. Go in there to get a clean cut win, make the weight. Then sure, we could talk about the Neil Magnies of the world, but not after that. That's a huge that's too much.
Did people not see the weight miss? I'm wondering, did people just are not aware of the weight miss?
It was a dude who like didn't try. Like he did not try to make the weight. And Randy Brown busted his ass and made it. And it played a factor in this fight. 1,000% it played a factor. So yeah, get the second half of your paycheck. That's fine. You know, and forfeit your 30% or so to Randy. But yeah, man, I just can't do it. We can't do it. Magny is still elevated to the top 15.
Yeah, I'm not for it. I'm
Bro,
not.
Phil Rowe fought Magny, but Phil Rowe like had clean wins, was finishing people like that were decent level. And Phil like, I don't know. That was a weird fight. That was one of the weirdest fights of all time. So yeah. Does anybody want to see Neil Magny fight? Who's clamoring besides Left Lane to see Neil Magny versus Bryan Battle? Anybody?
I'm looking at the comments right now. I'm just trying to see.
I see nothing. Bryan Battle versus Chaos Williams is 1,000 times better. Yeah. Last one. Pants versus Asu Amabaya for a fresh fight. No. Not
yet. I think they will. I think Asu's on his way, but I just don't think it's next. I don't think you do it next.
Should we get Pants versus Raw Dog too? I don't.
We already got it. So yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh, come on, Joseph Boza. Come on, Joseph Boza.
You're right.
Of course, we already got.
Right.
Should we get it? Yeah, we should because we got it. I know what he meant. Yes, I want to see him fight again. I do want to see him fight. I got you, Joseph. I know what you meant.
Y'all are way more mad at Battle than everyone else. Yeah, so apparently you didn't have the volume on during the pay-per-view last night. 19,000 people boo him out of the building. So no, I don't think that's true because I didn't boo him out of a building, but everybody else in Las Vegas booed him out of that building.
Yeah, it must have been something wrong. Must have been something wrong with our speakers, Mike. I don't know.
Yeah, it must have been my television set.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like Bryan. He's like... He's
Brian's
good,
cool.
man.
Yeah, Brian's
He's
cool.
good. He's a fun fighter. He's good on the mic, gift the gab, all that fun stuff. But man, don't side the dotted line if you ain't gonna make it. And if you know you're not gonna make it, like I just wanted to hear the reason. And he said, "Well, this is the quickest turnaround I've ever had at the division." And it's not like, and he's a big dude. If this was like 3 weeks, I would understand it, right? This was like 3 months. It was the Paris card, right? Yeah. This is a 3-month turnaround. I mean, it's not ideal, but just say like, hey man, I can't make it. Let's push it to January. Let's do it another time. You know? But it is what it is. That's what's Brian's thing that he says? Oh, you know what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying.
I love that so much. No, I'm not trying to like dump on Bryan, but it's more so I see so much potential in the man.
Yeah. Oh.
You know, it's just I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
I was gonna say you're not madding. I'm just disappointing in Bryan Battle right now. I don't know if there's any more comments, but let's. Can I say something positive? Happy birthday, Michael Chiesa. Happy birthday. I'm sure you guys feted him on the show on the watch party.
Happy birthday, Clay Guida.
Happy birthday, Clay Guida today. Yes, happy birthday, Clay Guida as we record this. 43 years young. Good for you, Clay. Fighting pro, as far as we know. I bet he actually fought in professional fights before that. But fighting pro, first recorded pro bout 2003, 21 years ago. Clay Guida had his first sanctioned pro fight that we know of. Chase Hooper was 4 years old when Clay Guida first fought. crazy stuff. If Clay Guida decides to retire tomorrow, very happy for him. If he doesn't and continues to fight, very happy for him as well. Just crazy stuff. And man, Michael Chiesa, that birthday power, man. That was a vintage Chiesa performance. Just wore Max Griffin down and got that submission in third. So just want to say something. I just want to say something nice.
If Makhachev wins his Brave fight this month, I could see Dana wanting him back and making it like a timeout.
Has to be impressive. That's
he's got to. He
has to be impressive.
He's got to absolutely. I mean, it's got to be on not even misfits. It's got to go viral.
Yeah,
like a viral finish. A win is not enough.
No, if it's a 3-round decision,
why would the UFC rush to bring him back? Like, what is the rush to bring him back? It's not like he's a giant star. It's a guy who's been a pain in their ass for almost his entire run there. I mean, Dana's been pretty honest about how difficult it has been to deal with Muhammad Makhachev. The UFC does not need any singular fighter at all. They don't need Conor McGregor. They don't need John Jones. They sure as hell don't need Muhammad Makhachev. Like, I understand why they got rid of him. And it wasn't like he was cut. He fought out his contract, and they're just like, all right, bye. Grow up a little bit. And I don't think one win against a guy no one has ever heard of is enough for the UFC to be like, yeah, man, you've learned your lesson. Because it doesn't seem like he has. So go fight outside of the UFC for a year. Go win 2 or 3 fights. Then you come back. Build a name for yourself. Get people wanting you to come back. And not just, hey, Pantoja needs fresh blood, so let's bring him back after he beats the 4,000th ranked flyweight in the world. You know, I win a couple fights. Like, if he was fighting Shorty Torres, if he goes out there, thumps up Shorty Torres, who's like maybe a top 30 flyweight, yeah, okay, I'm all right with that. Now we can have a conversation. But I don't know.
He did say he's willing to fight for free, Mike, and I feel like the UFC likes that. He did say before he was released that he's like, "I will fight for free. Please let me stay in the organization." So that's a pretty good selling point for the UFC, I feel. He is fighting Lutando Pico at a show on December 13th. So guys, very soon, just around the corner. It'll be a little midweek MMA. Not midweek. This will be next midweek, Thursday, next Thursday, I guess. So this is Brave CF 91. I'm trying to think where people can watch this. Brave events, I think, are on their own website, but also sometimes broadcast. And I think you need Brave. I think you need Brave TV or something. I could be wrong though. Follow guys. Kabaka Hitman. Come on, he'll have the hookup for you.
Got you.
Pico is a champion from the Extreme Fighting Championship promotions in South Africa. So, it's kind of cool. They're like, I do like that they brought in a champion from another promotion to kind of do a champ thing. So it's neat. It's neat. It's not obviously not a huge name. So like you said, Mike, I think for this to go, like, it has to be a finish. Viral preferably, but if it's just a grinding 3-round win for Makhachev, boy, that is not going to do it. That's not going to get Dana White out of bed. He's not getting a text from that. He will have no idea that fight even happened if that is how that goes.
Yeah, Dana's not Vince McMahon, and for a number of reasons. But Dana is also, like, Vince would always do what's best for business. If he found it, like, no door, it was always never say never with Vince. Like, you could do what he deemed as the most dastardly thing on earth, and if he felt like it's good, it makes good business sense, he would bring you back. Dana's not like that. If you mess with that man, if you get on his bad side, like, it's going to take almost a miracle for him to greenlight something positive happening to you. So I don't know. I don't know what they do with him, because it's tough. Because listen to all the programming we've done over the past few years. Not only did I think Muhammad Makhachev could be the flyweight champion, I saw 2 division champion written on that guy after his first couple of UFC fights. And then for some reason, just the maturity levels just continue to dwindle. Some of the stuff that we saw him getting in fights with Manel Kopp and his team, like, just super weird shit. And the UFC just doesn't need that headache. They're making so much money right now that they don't need it. And I don't care who Pants fights. I just want to see him fight. If it's Moreno again, who doesn't want to see him fight Moreno again? The greatest title, the greatest fight in the history of the division. You don't want to see that again? I'm okay with that. But we'll see how it all goes. We're done here. We know where the UFC is heading next. They go from Las Vegas, Nevada to the beautiful Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida. I will be there as well. I will be heading out there tomorrow, hanging out with the parents all week and kind of going back and forth from their place to Tampa. We got Colby Covington versus Joaquin Buckley in the main event. Cub Swanson versus Billy Quarantillo is the co-main event. Manel Kape, Bruno Silva. Featured bout, Dustin Jacoby, Vitor Petrino. We got Daniel Marcos versus Adrian Yanez. Holy smokes, dude. That fight is so ridiculous. That is a ridiculous fight. Navajo Sterling versus Tuco Tokos. We know how that fight is probably going to go. Michael Johnson versus Otman Azaitar. This card actually like low-key slaps, AK. Drakkar Klose versus Joel Alvarez. Holy shit. Sean Woodson versus Fernando Padilla. Miles Johns versus Felipe Lima. Damn.
That's good.
That's a really good fight. Miranda Maverick versus Jamie Lynn Hort. Davey Grant is back against Ramon Tavares. Someone's getting bloody there. And then Pierre Rodriguez versus Josephine Knudsen, who is just, they're both kind of savages. So I think this will be a fun watch. I know we lost Hebus and Dern. I know we lost Saeed Nurmagomedov. I know we lost Ian Gary, but all in all, this is pretty darn good card. I'm looking forward to it, AK.
This is a great post pay-per-view like cooler. Like if UFC 310 again, that's the big bang, their last pay-per-view of the year. You got the after party. You gotta have the after party, and that's what UFC Tampa is. It's chill. It's chill. Like there's a lot of Colby Covington fans out there. Like I was saying, like, oh man, it'll suck if Colby just drags Joaquin Buckley down for 5 rounds and beats him. But hey, I might hate it. I guarantee there's a lot of people out there who like it. So, and of course, Colby will be making headlines. I mean, listen, Buckley might too. Like you said, you've touted a lot. The man has done a great job rehabilitating his image after some very, very, very bad post-fight interviews and interview moments outside with other outlets. But he's back on track. He wins. Ton of momentum going into 2025. And if Covington wins, as you said earlier, my God, might set up a title fight. I don't know.
Oh, Joaquin Buckley could get himself Fighter of the Year votes if he wins this fight.
Oh, yeah.
4-0 with a main event win in the final fight of the year against a former interim champion. That's a pretty good year. But we'll be back on the podcast network talking all things UFC Tampa from a matchmaking perspective right here. On to the next one, the podcast. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. We are out of here.